You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. I'm here. It is, Wednesday, March 26th. I'm coming to you from the great state of California here in San Francisco at our Airbnb. We are here to, of course, cover the Arkansas's NCAA tournament run, their March Madness with the men's basketball team. Huge game tomorrow night against Texas Tech. We're about to get to see the team practice here in a little bit. So that's exciting. And, of course, we're going to have coverage of all that. But as you guys know, baseball season never stops. It definitely never stops for me. That's always what I've got my eye on. And unfortunately, I had my eye on the Arkansas Razorbacks last night as they choked away a midweek game, which, you know, the title of this show, you see the little graphic here, some terminology that seems a little harsh, but I don't know how else to word Arkansas giving up 5 runs in the 9th inning to tie the game, and then a solo home run in the 10th inning to lose the game 14-13 against Missouri State. It's Arkansas's first midweek loss, I believe, since 2022. They've been bizarrely good in these situations. I feel like it's kind of a rite of passage in college baseball. Every really good team needs to have one just inexplicable, horrible midweek loss every year. Arkansas, weirdly enough, has avoided that type of midweek loss here in the last couple of years. So maybe this is a good omen. Maybe this is a thing we should look at as a positive thing. In all seriousness, it's never good when you lose a game the way Arkansas did last night. It's definitely never good for a team that has a ton of questions on the pitching front to give up 14 runs, to give up 14 hits, to have some arms that you actually want to use on the weekends. I would love to chalk this up to, hey, they threw a bunch of freshmen. These guys are never going to pitch on the weekends. Some of these guys, maybe not all, but some of these guys, like a Colin Fisher, like a Will McIntyre, like a Ben Bybee, who had kind of worked his way possibly into that circle of trust, you'd like to see them pitch a little bit better. And so that was disappointing. And so there's always two schools of thought. When you have a midweek game like this, and really, we've seen stuff like this before. I mean, in 2019, Arkansas got run ruled by Little Rock. They lost 18-8 or something like that to Little Rock. They've had some collapses. I remember they had a collapse against ULM one year. The last midweek loss Arkansas had suffered was in that 2022 season, like I said, against this same Missouri State team. Of course, they different head coach then, but these things happen a lot. And there's always two schools of thought. There's this is a red flag, the season's over. I've seen some crazy responses to Arkansas's midweek loss of people really hitting the panic button, being like, holy cow, like this is a bad sign. This is a big deal. This shows that this team sucks and they're incompetent. They can't pitch and we don't have a chance and we're choking away another season. I saw literally some people that were like actually being like, all right, this just shows Dave Van Horn can't get the job done. And obviously that's not true. And there's always the school of thought of, well, it's a midweek game. Who cares? None of this matters. I'm probably closer to the latter there of thinking that it doesn't matter. But as I always say, the truth is somewhere there in the middle. In baseball, there's 60 games in college and 162 in the big leagues, over 100 at pro ball. There's always going to be ups and downs. You're never as good as you look on your best day. You're never as bad as you look on your worst day. And so, I think the truth is somewhere there in the middle. But at least for us on this show, what we're going to do, we're going to try and find that middle, and we're going to find that truth and what really we should take away from this game. Because, look, make no mistake about this. If you actually are living and dying with the results, one, that's the wrong way to be going about this thing because the results, especially in the regular season, aren't necessarily what the end-all, be-all is going to be. It's all about how you're playing. Do you have the pieces to win? Can you win on the weekend? And you definitely shouldn't be living and dying with midweek results. Matter of fact, there's pretty much, I know that sounds like a cliche where you're like, oh, well, he says it doesn't mean anything. It kind of does mean something, right? It really doesn't. I mean, Tennessee, the number one team in the country right now, the defending national champions, widely considered the best team, best program in the country. They lost their first game of the year last Tuesday against East Tennessee State University. And I saw a bunch of Hawk fans doing victory laps of like, ha, Tennessee, got them. And then they go out there and beat Bama on the road on the weekend. And all of a sudden that midweek loss really doesn't matter. And so, of course, Arkansas has that same opportunity about to go to Vanderbilt to have a huge, tough road series against a top 15 team. And make no mistake about it. If Arkansas goes out there and beats Vanderbilt 2 out of 3 or they sweep Vanderbilt, we will gladly, it makes this midweek loss a lot easier to stomach, a lot easier to brush under the rug, to sweep under the refrigerator, whatever it is you've got to do. It's going to be way easier if Arkansas goes out there and plays good ball on the weekend. But like I said, we're trying to find that truth in the middle. Like, I'm not willing to do the whole just completely ignore this. There's nothing to take from this. I think there's things here and there you can take from it, and we're going to do that. But before we get into the game and kind of what happened and some of the takeaways I had from the pitching staff, I want to remind you guys that today's show is brought to you by Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. They've got the best apparel. They've got the best brands. It's not just some random, Walmart brand out there. They've got Columbia. They got their P&G. They've got whatever. Brooks Brothers. They've got it all, man. Like, they've got some legitimate high-class stuff, hoodies, sweatshirts, shoes, shirts, all of it. They've got it all. They've got all the apparel. They've also just got random gifts that you can decorate your house with, give to a buddy, grilling stuff for the summer, whatever it is. You will not be disappointed with their selection. You can check those guys out at 3417 North College Avenue, of course, in Fayetteville, or you can shop online if you're not in the area. If you're like me and you're in San Francisco this week, this link right here, insidearkansas.com/alumni hall, will take you right to their online store, and the promo code HOGSBY20 will give you 20% off your first purchase. So go check those guys out. I always say you will not be disappointed with their selection. You will not be disappointed with the options. I have yet to be proven wrong on that one. So I appreciate Alumni Hall for all they do. So again, on to the game here. And so, of course, by the way, it's the day after. And again, I want to apologize because it's been a heated discussion here about when I'm able to do Bombbastics and if I'm too focused on basketball. I know there's some people that were really hot in the streets. And by the way, I also appreciate everybody who commented on Monday's episode and was like, hey, Andrew, I'm still listening. It's all good. I still love the Baumbastic. It was like almost an overcorrection because I was complaining a little bit on Monday about people heating me up. And so I appreciate everybody that was like, hey, man, I'm still listening to every episode. And I know that on, days like this, when it's basketball season and we're right in the middle of March Madness, if you're listening to baseball content, one, I appreciate that like a lot because, of course, baseball is my thing. But I know I'm talking to the real ball knowers, like the real sickos who were tapped in on midweek losses. And hell, even the people who are overreacting to the midweek loss and being like, hey, the season's over. Of course, I think they're wrong. But I respect the people who are like living, dying, and living and breathing with baseball here in the middle of March. That really just fires me up. And I always appreciate any type of passionate Hog fans. And so I know the people that are listening to this particular episode, you're a passionate Razorback baseball fan. And so I appreciate everybody who's reached out. I've gotten a lot of kind messages ever since my little rant on Monday. All you got to do is just complain and people will say nice things to you, apparently. But seriously, though, appreciate everybody for tapping in. And look, I can't make any promises on how this week is going to look. I will be putting out a preview. So tomorrow's game is 9 o'clock your time, the Arkansas basketball game, 7 o'clock for us. Tomorrow morning, I will be recording some type of weekend preview for Arkansas Vanderbilt. Look forward to doing that. And so if you're looking forward to the weekend and you're saying, hey, I don't care about this midweek stuff, talk to me about the weekend, Andrew. I will be doing that on tomorrow's episode. And so, like I said, man, it's basketball season, but we're still going to have the baseball content. I damn sure I'm not going to be taking my eyes off of this baseball team. I'm always going to be locked in with what's going on there. But normally we do kind of game recaps where we pull up the box score and we go through the play-by-play and this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. One, it's a day later, so it's a little bit tough to do that. But really, I think everyone really just wants to know what the hell happened, man. And so we're not going to do a full-on play-by-play, but I did want to pull up the box score real quick. In case you did miss last night's game and you missed all the action, again, it was 14-13, pretty back and forth. I mean, Missouri State, I think they got up 4-0 in this game. Look kind of bleak early. Hogs bounce back. They end up taking, I believe it was like a 12-7, 12-8 lead. You're feeling pretty good, and then it all kind of falls apart there in the ninth inning. You see there's 16 hits for Arkansas. Charles Davalon continues to be very good. Vahiva Loy had an RBI double, although not a great day at the office for him. Logan Maxwell continues to be Logan Maxwell. Cam Kojal had a couple hits. Carson Bowles comes off the bench. Kendall Diggs gets to start, has a double play ground out and a pop-up with the bases loaded and nobody out. And Dave Van Horn had seen enough, goes to Carson Bowles, who had a two-run double in the right center gap. So good to see that from him. Nolan Souza, my guy, has 3 hits, also had his first error of the season. Could not have imagined a worse possible way to have your first error. There was somebody the other day. Oh, it was somebody that gave up. It was Parker Coyle that gave up his first run of the year. And I was like, man, this, the way he gave it up, that's kind of like the best possible way to give up your first career run. Nolan Souza, this was not that. He had his first error of the season. Actually, it might be his first career error. about as bad of an error as you can have as a second baseman at the Division I level. It wound up, pretty much costing Arkansas the game. Like, let's just call it what it is. But it sucks because it came in a night where Nolan Souza goes 3 for 5 at the plate, had an opposite field double down the line, had a huge RBI single. I think he had 2 singles in that game and a double. So it was like cool to see him continuing to swing the bat pretty well. His batting average creeping up now. Don't look now. Nolan Souza's hitting 229, and so and he's hitting 263 in SEC play. Again, these are not gaudy numbers by any means, but for a guy that was struggling the way he was early in the year, it's cool to see him working his way back. Zane Becker gets to start behind the plate, by the way. Had a huge 2-run double off the wall. Good stuff to see from him. And Gabe Frazier, the freshman from California, gets to start at third base. They give Brent Iredale his first day off. He did come into the game later as a defensive replacement and got an at-bat. Gabe Frazier had an opposite field single, little base hit. It was like a 2-strike count. He just shortens up. They're shifted like crazy against them. Hits a little dribbler to the left side. Good piece of hitting, honestly, to just stay alive, do what you got to do, hit it where they ain't. That's the name of this game. Gets on base there. That was his second career hit. And then I guess I can't remember what inning this would have been, maybe the 4th or 5th. Gabe Frazier gives Arkansas the lead. So you have bases loaded, nobody out. And you have Kendall Diggs pops up with nobody out. And it's like, oh, that sucks. Nolan Souza strikes out swinging at a changeup. And then Gabe Frazier gets an elevated breaking ball and just unloads on it. Hits at 377 feet, 104 miles an hour off the bat. That's his first career home run. That's his first career grand slam. Really awesome stuff to see from Gabe Frazier. Good to see him get an opportunity here in the midweek. And we'll see if we see him again on the weekend soon. The pitching numbers there on the below. It's weird because you look at it and you're like, you take each outing in and of itself, and it's really not that crazy. Or like at least most of them, like Colin Fisher goes 3 innings, gives up 3 runs, uncharacteristic 3 walks from Colin Fisher, which that kind of came back to bite him. The first run he gave up, I really felt bad for him because he issues a leadoff walk and ends up striking out the next 3 guys, but you've got a freshman catcher behind home plate, so you get a stolen base and 2 wild pitches. Winds up bringing home that first run. Then he gave up a couple hits, ends up with 3 runs. Not a good outing, like probably one of the worst outings you'll see out of Colin Fisher, worst outings he's had this year. But like, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over him going 3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He did strike out 6. And, you see the 3 walks there, but he throws 31 strikes and 54 pitches. So it's like pretty much every ball he threw contributed to a walk. So not a good day at the office, but that in and of itself, I'm not going to lose too much sleep about it. I'm not going to change my opinion on Colin Fisher. Ben Bybee, I was a little bit disappointed with. Had some good moments. He was a guy that had pitched. He had given up, or he had gone 3 innings on the weekend in the SEC, not giving up a run. Goes 4 innings last week in the midweek. Felt like he had kind of graduated from midweek work into the weekend role. They bring him back out here for a midweek outing. Goes an inning and 2/3. Gives up, I believe, he gave up a home run. Gave up a couple other hits there, gives up 4 hits total. Again, it's kind of the same issue with Ben Bybee of not being able to put guys away, getting ahead in the count, throwing a ton of strikes, but not being able to put them away. And so a little bit discouraged by his outing. But again, one that I'm not really going to lose like crazy amount of sleep over. Same with Dylan Carter, who goes an inning in the 3rd, ends up giving up a solo home run, but did have 3 strikeouts. I thought he threw the ball pretty well. An okay day at the office, but you start adding it up. You start adding the 3 runs from Fisher, the 3 runs from Ben Bybee, the run from Carter, and you're like, holy cow, starting to get away from Arkansas a little bit. Cole Gibler, by the way, gives up a solo home run to one of the first guy, maybe the first guy he faced, hits an opposite field home run. It was a guy that had 1 home run coming into the year. He ends up hitting 2 home runs in this game, and so just kind of one of those, you just tip your hat and live with it. Cole Gibler, after that, strikes out the next 7 hitters he faced. Strikes out the next 7. It looked for a while like Cole Gibler might just shut the door on this game. He pitched the 7th and the 8th. They bring him back out for the 9th. By that point, he was kind of running out of gas. Gets the first guy he gets out. Ends up giving up a couple base hits. They go to Will McIntyre. Cole Gibler, see the final line says that he gave up 3 runs. Anyone who watched the game, I think you would agree, he threw a lot better than that. Those 2 runs, those 2 extra runs that he gave up in that 9th inning were not given up by him. He leaves the game with 2 on and 1 out. Arkansas ends up losing the game. He leaves with two runners on and 1 out with a 5-run lead. That's the situation that Cole Gibler left Arkansas in. So, in my opinion, even though the numbers say he gave up 3 runs and probably wasn't that gaudy of a stat line, 7 strikeouts, 2 1/3. I continue to be very encouraged by his stuff. And again, with Cole Gibler, it's a weird thing. Last week, I don't know if he gave up a run. He went 2 innings, maybe gave up 1 run. I thought he was worse last week when his numbers were better. This week, I thought he was awesome. Just kind of ran out of gas there at the end, and then he gives the ball over to Will McIntyre, who did not shut the door for him. But weirdly enough, I came away being like, Cole Gibbler. Like, I'm intrigued. I continue to be very, very intrigued. I would love to see a situation where Arkansas could get him in a game on the weekend in the SEC. Of course, he's a freshman that has not thrown against an SEC hitter yet this year. You don't want to throw him into a 5-4 game in the ninth inning or anything like that. But if there could be a situation where maybe there's a game that Arkansas gets up big, or hell, even Arkansas's down big, whatever it is, like a 9-2 game, 6th, 7th inning, I would love to see Cole Gibbler just get an inning of work against SEC hitters, see him go out there and, they try to stretch him out for 3 innings in this midweek game. I don't love that. I think he's a guy that could one day be a future, long reliever, future starter, something like that. I'd love to maybe see him get a midweek start. I don't know if 3 innings like a 3-inning save to close out the game as a freshman is necessarily the best way to use his services, but what the hell do I know? And like I said, they go to Will McIntyre, and I'll just read the description of what all happened here in the 9th inning. So again, you have Gibbler gets first guy strikes out, ends up giving up a 2-1 single and then a first pitch single to right field. And that's where you kind of knew, okay, he's out of here. They bring in Will McIntyre, who immediately gets up 1-2 and then ends up giving up an RBI single. And you're like, oh, damn, gives up on a Gibbler's run. But like Arkansas still fine here. 1 strike to the next guy. Then the second pitch, the at-bat, rips a double down the right field line. I believe it was a lefty. That's a double, scores another run. And now you're kind of in some danger here. 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. You're starting to get a little nervous. Pop up to Nolan Souza. And again, makes his first career error, first error of the year. About as bad of an error as you can make given the situation. I mean, simply this ball that was hit, it was just a routine pop fly to the second baseman. It's just got to be caught. I mean, we're at this level. We're playing SEC baseball. I've defended Nolan Souza as much as anybody in the country, and I will continue to do that. I still think he's a stud. I think he's going to be a consistent piece in the Razorback lineup. I feel like there's no doubt about that. Got to make this play, dude. Like, you just got to make this play. Pretty tough there. So, weirdly enough, the runner at third did not score there because, it was a pop fly on the infield. He was not planning on tagging up, planning on doing anything. The ball only rolled a few feet away from him. So, you end up having bases loaded, 1 out, and you're still kind of waiting on something to happen here. Ends up giving up another single to right field, and then McIntyre issues a 4-pitch walk. That was it. By the way, I saw a lot of people who were saying, oh, man, why is DVH? He just loves Will McIntyre. He just keeps pitching him and keeps throwing him out there, and he just won't ever go away from McIntyre. Why didn't he yank him earlier? And, I get why people are saying that. Guys, I'll be honest with you. Here's the thing. When Will McIntyre came into the game, again, he had a 5-run lead with 1 out in the 9th inning. So when Will McIntyre entered the game, which, by the way, he's come into the 9th inning multiple times this year, and he's come through multiple times. So in terms of why did he get the ball, I don't think any of you had a problem with it when he went into the game, when he started giving up base hits and ended up walking a guy in, all that. Yeah, of course. At that point, we're all like, okay, yeah, get him out of the game. But when you enter the game with 1 out in the 9th inning and a 5-run lead, there's not usually another guy up and throwing right then. Like Tate McGuire ended up coming into the game a few batters later. They had to kind of rush and scramble to get him going. This isn't like basketball where you can just sub guys in and out, especially on the mound. You have to warm up a pitcher. You have to get a guy ready. And so they pretty much yanked Will McIntyre as early as they possibly could have done it. They could have brought out some stalling tactics and, had a mound visit, take your time getting back, and maybe call timeout, do some type of weird thing here and there, maybe sub a fielder out. Like, they could have maybe filibustered if they needed. But I saw a bunch of people who were like, why didn't they take Mac out earlier? It would have been really hard, like humanly possible, to get Tate McGuire up and moving. And so I guess you should say, one person could say in hindsight, which is always 2020, well, when you bring in Will McIntyre with a 5-run lead in the 9th inning, you should have 2 guys up and ready to go already, which, like, again, we can say in hindsight. But in the situation, it would have been really hard for them to pull him any earlier than they did. Hell, he only ended up facing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters total. And so it's like they kind of yanked him pretty quickly. And so you end up going to Tate McGuire, who ends up getting a ground ball, fielder's choice. Almost, I thought he was going to have the double play ball there, ends up getting a ground out. And so kind of calmed down the inning a little bit there. Ended up only, tying the game, because when he left, it was bases loaded 1-run lead, 1 out. Like, that could have easily blown up even more. So I thought it was a good job by McGuire to kind of calm things down. Arkansas ends up going down in order. Iredale strikes out, Davalon lines out, and Vahiva Aloy strikes out in the 9th inning. You go to the top of the 10th, and the same guy who had 1 home run on the year hits an opposite field home run to start the inning against Tate McGuire, and that was all she wrote. And so it sucks. Arkansas loses. And again, like, the loss in and of itself, I really don't care about. I'm not going to think about this loss or this game ever again, probably. Like, it's just not going to be a thing. No matter what happens during Arkansas season, even if Arkansas chokes in the postseason, we're not going to look back and say, well, it all started with that midweek game against Missouri State. Like, I don't think that's really going to be a thing. Let's listen real quick to what DVH had to say, because he was basically asked, what's going through your mind as you're watching it unravel and you're watching your pitching staff give up the lead there.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Is you have to, sometimes you got to lose one to win one. That's the way I look at it. And there's a couple of older guys, or even a freshman down there that's got great stuff, can finish a game, and we didn't put him on the board today because we didn't want to throw him because he might have to throw Friday. And sometimes that's just the way it works in this game. We play a lot of games, and you want to win them all, but sometimes you can't sacrifice winning on Tuesday to win on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because those games are more important. We're going to a really tough place to play, a team that hasn't lost at home all year, and we need to have all of our guys available.
Apologies for the mid-episode scene switch, but win in San Francisco, a lot going on. Had to switch it up a little bit. I've got eyes on the Chase Center right now, where the Hogs just wrapped up practice about an hour ago. If I see a Dude Thero walking around, I'll let you guys know. But you hear there in that clip from Dave Van Horn kind of the mentality that he had going into this game. And so if you're a naysayer, you can look at that and say, well, Dave probably should have had his team maybe a little bit more prepared for this game. Shouldn't have them overlooking this one or anything crazy like that. But I think, again, you get a little insight into his mentality. Midweek games, as much as we'd like to pretend like every game matters and you're going to try and win every game, which is true, he was very clearly not going to sacrifice anything for the weekend, which Arkansas's got, like I said, a very important weekend series against Vanderbilt coming up. Definitely was not going to sacrifice any of that. So you don't have Carson Wiggins available. You don't have Christian Fouch available, although I was a little surprised because Fouch did pitch last week in the midweek. Didn't go well for him on the weekend, so maybe they thought, hey, no sense in throwing him out there on a Tuesday. So we'll see what they do with him. No Aiden Jimenez in this game yesterday, of course. And so, and by the way, I have no issue with that at all. Really, it kind of reminds me of how Arkansas handled the pitching situation last week on Tuesday against Oral Roberts, where they kind of had it a structured, you go one, you go two, you go two, you go two. We all do our job. We win, we go home. Problem here is people just didn't do their jobs. A lot of times as Razorback fans, we like to freak out and try and figure out why something happened. If someone goes up there and sucks, we're like, oh, this guy sucks. Why would they have him in? You should have someone else in. And a lot of times, whether we're right or wrong, it's just how it plays out. Like, it's not like the names were any different last week when Arkansas shut down a really solid Oral Roberts team, a better Oral Roberts team than the one they played yesterday. It just got away from the Arkansas Razorbacks. They laid an egg in this one, weren't ready to play. And it's disappointing. And like I said, it's disappointing and discouraging, but I also don't think it should distract from what this team has going on, what they're going to do this weekend. But also, like I said earlier, it's a lot easier to stomach this if you go out and you pitch well and you play well this weekend. Because the reality of it is, if Zach Root goes out there and shoves, if Gabe Gackle goes out there and shoves, if Beidelshees and Wiggins and even Fouch or any of these guys, hell, if some of these guys who pitched poorly yesterday, like if McIntyre comes back and gives you 2-3 innings on Sunday and looks good, again, we'll call it a day and move on. Parker Coyle's another guy that didn't pitch yesterday. If guys like that pitch well on the weekend, we are not going to come away from this week and say, hey, Arkansas still has a ton of pitching problems. Because like I said, it's what you do on the weekend. But when you combine the discouraging results we've been seeing from the pitching already and how we felt like that group was underachieving, you combine it with yesterday's performance, it's undoubtedly a little bit concerning. And so I'm trying to articulate this the best I can, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we can get up and we can get down, but really this team just needs to play well on the weekend. And I don't think yesterday's game, as bad as it was, will disqualify Arkansas from being able to do that. But I do think there's a real path where if Arkansas stinks it up in Nashville this weekend, we'll look back and really have some concerns. But I think there's room for this team to bounce back, and clearly, the Razorbacks were overlooking this game a little bit. I don't even think that's debatable. I mean, you hear Dave Van Horn, his comments there, seems like that's maybe this game wasn't one they had circled on the calendar. It's not an excuse. I mean, you still got to go out there and play. All the games count. But in terms of how this will affect Arkansas' season, I'm not convinced it has much bearing. But I would like to see this pitching get shored up really soon, especially for some of those guys like a Colin Fisher, even like a Ben Bybee, like a Will McIntyre. Would love to see Cole Gibbler be able to build on the experience he's been getting in some of these midweek games. But looking ahead to the weekend, still feel like Arkansas sets up pretty well. We're going to see how this starting rotation can get back on track, and if they're able to do that, I think that's going to be one of the bigger questions. We'll see. They haven't announced the rotation yet. It's currently Wednesday at about 2 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast, 4 o'clock there for you guys. We don't have any indication as to how Arkansas will handle the weekend, though we did get to hear from Dave Van Horn. Did not offer up a super encouraging update on Hunter Dietz, so it doesn't look like he's going to be available anytime soon. Seems like Gage Wood is trending in the right direction, but I don't expect him at this point to be available this weekend. But I think next week when they get back home against Missouri, very possibly could be the time when you see Gage Wood work his way back into action. And so, again, we'll see how it shakes out. But the good thing about this Razorback team is they have options. Even if some of those options might be a little bit more dependable than others, some of those options aren't as dependable as we maybe hoped. The good thing is they've kind of recruited that way. They've developed that way. They've built the roster a certain way where you're always going to have a guy you can go to on the mound. And like Dave Van Horn said in the clip there, they had some guys that if, push came to shove, if it was not dropping time, they would have gone to. They made a choice not to. They made a choice to see if Will McIntyre could get it done, to see if Cole Gibbler could get it done, to see if Tate McGuire could get it done. And we'll see. But again, the circle of trust, which we talked about yesterday, is getting pretty thin at this point, and Arkansas has to get some guys to step up. But I guess the sentiment I want to continue to echo is all of this is going to be a moot point if Arkansas goes out there and plays well on the weekend. And I have a buddy who's a huge football guy, used to work for PFF, and he always has this theory that football defenses will be as good or bad as they need to be or allowed to be. And we see that happen in football all the time, where you see a team win a 14-13 slugfest, low-scoring game, and then the next week they're in a shootout. It's just kind of how these things work out. Sometimes the flow of the game yields itself to high-scoring stuff. It's not like they were a great defense one week and a bad defense the next week. Sometimes it's just the flow of the game. And so I think this pitching staff with Arkansas, with the way that they've been swinging the bats, maybe they're throwing a little bit too many strikes and maybe thinking, hey, our offense has got our back. And I ultimately like Arkansas stinking in the midweek game. That's certainly not going to really move the needle too much. But what was disappointing to me was just the people that we saw do it. And so not great, but I hope you guys haven't jumped completely off the bandwagon, and we can get this thing going in the right direction this weekend. So appreciate you guys for tapping in on today's edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. Sorry for the mid episode location switch, but we're just making it happen the best way we can. And appreciate you guys. And hey, make sure you subscribe to this Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. It's going to be popping all week. We got this Baumbastic. We've got Pot at the Palace content coming out. We got some practice footage, by the way, up already. So go check that out. We're also going to get to hear from John Calipari. I guess that's going on like right now. And, of course, our post-game, Pot at the Palace post-game will be going live on this channel. You will not want to miss any of the crazy action we've got going on. And so appreciate you guys for tapping in. Leave this episode a like on your way out. And let's have a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, everyone.